following is a digital media production.
Early in the week, that means it's time for another Roenick Life pod. This is Billy Jaffe, Jeremy Roenick, and I are going to be touching all things National Hockey League, including sitting down and talking to one of the great clutch performers in Game 7, Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7 now in the National Hockey League. Jay, what else do we got?
Well, we got a lot of stuff going on. We got some hot teams, Chicago Blackhawks. We got some teams going the wrong way. Minnesota, we'll hit on Minnesota. Anze Kopitar, the new $80 million guy. We're going to talk a little bit about him and his contract. And I swear, Billy, this will be the last time that we talk and discuss John Scott, an all-star game, but I think it's really important to touch on it because did the NHL have anything to do with that trade to get him into Montreal and away from the Western Conference and away from the all-star game? This will be the debate, but we have a lot of great things. Justin Williams, very excited to listen to him.
It's all coming up. Roenick Life Pod with JR and Jaffe, powered by digital media.
Here's Roenick, what a move! Jeremy Roenick shot, score! Magic for JR!
Jeremy Roenick.
What the hell is he looking at? How does he not see it?
Mike Milbury's a donkey. That's all he is.
He's a son of a NHL, wake up.
Billy Jaffe.
There's a lot of energy right now here, and it's only going to build, and I can't wait for that.
This is Roenick Life with JR and Jaffe. Powered by digital media. Find your voice.
I don't know if we're ever going to stop talking about this. Maybe this will be the last week we stop talking about it. I doubt it because the All-Star game is coming up in just a couple of weeks for the National Hockey League. But it's Roenick Life Pod with JR and Jaffe. And JR, we're going to start right away with John Scott and the All-Star.
We got to do it.
The topic that we'll keep on talking about.
Well, of course, because it's one of the stupidest things that's happened in the National Hockey League in a long time. So we have to talk about it one more time because, yes, the All-Star game is coming up in 10 days, and we have to continue it because
Aren't you tired? You're not tired of it?
No, I'm not tired of it. The plot just gets thicker and thicker because now John Scott's gotten traded. So, and I don't think it was just coincidence.
All right, so John Scott traded from the Arizona Coyotes. He finds his way, or finds out that he's on his way to the Montreal Canadiens organization, to the American League team, and not the National League team. And he's gone. He's traded. In essence, he's traded for Jared Tenorti, who's a former first-round pick defenseman who finds his way back to or out to Arizona. There's another piece of the puzzle with Nashville involved. That's not the important thing, right? Right now, it's this: John Scott, it seems, is no longer going to play in the NHL All-Star Game in Nashville at the end of January. First of all, why do you think? I mean, do you think that there was something funny to this trade, Jeremy?
I do. I
Yeah?
do that, and I can't confirm it, and I'm not going to start pointing fingers or say that the NHL did this but my inkling, and I've heard rumblings around the league, so I've heard rumors, I've heard people say certain things, and some people know a little bit more than I do that are really maybe more in the NHL loop. But we do know, you and I do know, that the National Hockey League was furious at the fact of how John Scott got voted in as a captain.
Which was their fault, though. Which was their fault. It was the NHL's
for sure.
fault.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? With everything that happens in certain situations, you learn, and the National Hockey League learned that their system can be tweaked the wrong way. So they're going to make amends for that. And I know that the plans have already been set in stone in terms of what they're going to do to alleviate this from happening again. Where the system is not taken advantage of. But when you look at the situation where the National Hockey League was, I think, so upset with the aspect of this voting and this joke campaign, it sounds to me like the National Hockey League got involved either with Maloney in Arizona and trying to convince John Scott not to go, or at least try to coerce him to give up his opportunity as a captain. I heard he said no. Probably not a good idea. When you're a dinosaur in the game, and I say dinosaur in to be very respectful in this way, but he's the last pure fighter in the game. There's no more pure fighters anymore. 11 goals. We know all his stats. And again, I'm not jumping on John Scott as a person. This is all typically professional and the professional ranks. But when you play 11 games, you have 1 point. You play 260 games, you have 11 points. And you're in the minors. You probably should listen to the National Hockey League and to your team and do what, kind of maybe go along with them and be a good guy. So I say to go along, Billy, I'm very, very confident that the National Hockey League had something to do with him being traded as far away from Arizona as possible and in the minors so that he couldn't get to get to Nashville.
If he was going to get traded somewhere, Eastern Conference made the most sense, in the sense of because every team was already spoken for. Let's just play the hypothetical game here, and I'll back up for a minute. There have been people, for instance, Bob McKenzie, who tweeted out, John Scott, previously asked by both the NHL and Arizona Coyotes to bow out of the NHL All-Star Game. He refused, and the trade likely takes care of that. People
That's what happens.
At
That's what
Sportsnet have said same things. I have heard that there were other offers made to John Scott as, again, rumor. But just to throw it out there, that there were, opportunities for John Scott to do other things instead of going to the game.
But you know what though, I'll say this about John Scott: like he might be a great guy, but he should have had at least more class and said, you know what, thanks everybody. Said to the National Hockey, listen, I'll give up my position as captain if I can give it to Shane Doan, who is my captain, who's had a great year, who's near the end of his career. That would have been a real classy thing to do, and I think a lot of people would have had way more respect for him than to say, yeah, I know it was a joke, but I'll never get to one anyway. I want to go see what it's like. I think he missed the boat on that.
All right, so fine enough on that. And I say that, I disagree a little bit in the sense, Jay, that, he played by the rules. He didn't do anything wrong in his regard, except I
didn't say he did.
No, okay.
I didn't say he did, but still, he missed a great opportunity to really show how good a teammate and guy that everybody says he is.
And how much Shane Doan deserves, which we all agree, I think, that he deserves. Now, let's go to the other side, all right? But I want to get your opinion on this. And it's a hypothetical, with the emphasis on hypothetical, because we don't have it confirmed. But if the NHL did have anything to do with this, Jeremy, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's fair? Do you think that that is right if they got involved in any way?
The NHL is such a powerful organization. You know that, Billy, and they are very, very stern and very strict on how they want their game to be perceived, to be run, on who gets in, on who doesn't. It's pretty much a squeaky clean image sport, and they like it that way. And there's certain things that integrity on how things are done in this game. And I personally believe that having this happen with John Scott and the All-Star Game, because the NHL loves the All-Star Game, and tell you the truth, they're very proud of the fact that they're trying to make it better. They're trying to make it more exciting. They're changing the rules, and they're hoping that this year's is more exciting to watch, and it is, and it stays that revered game of the year where we're celebrating the best players. And I stress the best players. I think they're very proud of that. So when it comes to this, where they see maybe that the league is going to get tainted a little bit, or at least get laughed at a little bit, that they would step in and try to have some sort of hand.
Is that fair of them to do, considering, again, hypothetically, would it be fair for them to do, Jay, considering that they had a big hand in this in the first place?
Yes, I do think it's fair. I do think it's fair, because it is so out of the realm of being right that the National Hockey League, even though they were responsible for not having the rules properly in place for the voting in the first place, but yeah, I think you learn with your mistakes, and they stepped in and they fixed it.
Hey, but I think your comment about learning about mistakes is dead on, okay? But I think if there's any notion that this league, that any league, forget this league, any league gets involved in moving players like that, I think it sets bad precedent. You know what? You made a great point about John Scott saying, you know what, in the first place, or let's say a week or 2 weeks ago, saying, listen, I get it, I'm going to back out or bout, and I want Shane Doan to go, he deserves it the most, and etc. That would have been great. What if, hypothetically, the NHL said this? We don't love this. This isn't how we meant the system to be. But you know what? This is how the system is. John Scott has worked his ass off to become an NHLer, whatever that means, over the years. And this year, we respect it. After this year, there will be changes. But you know what, John Scott? Welcome. What if they had done that too, and they look like gentlemen, or they look like the Menches out there too?
Because the game's going to come, and people are going to be watching, and they're going to be laughing at the fact of the situation that's happening. NHL does not want to get laughed at. let me tell you, Gary Bettman and all the boys up in the office who are extremely, extremely proud of their organization, what they built, and
absolutely,
and absolutely want the highest respect for the National Hockey League. They're not going to have it. They won't have it. Trust me. You walk into a room with Gary Bettman, and you know it's all business. I mean, from the first moment he talks to you to the moment that you leave, that he is all business, and he wants no funny business or anybody laughing at his league. And if they stepped in, good for them, because it was right. Sorry.
Well, it's just an interesting scenario, and it's the old, can it open up a can of worms if it is?
Yeah, Maloney said that didn't happen. You know,
Okay.
and I think Maloney's got to protect his player. He's got to protect the process. But I would be really shocked if there wasn't a conversation between the offices in New York and the offices in Phoenix.
Well, it's curious. It's interesting. It's developing. Maybe not developing anymore. Maybe now that John Scott has been traded and again has been relegated to the American League in the Eastern Conference. Maybe it's all said and done. But it's just there's potential, I guess, here if anything did happen. It's something that, I don't know. A month and a half ago, we never would have thought we'd have to talk about it. It's just interesting how things like this take its own form. But
okay, so listen, this will be our last conversation about John Scott and
you promise.
the All-Star game. I promise. I have beaten the dead horse, and I've beaten the dead horse, and then I beat the dead horse again. But I think you know how I feel about it, and I'm going to say this one more time. Shame on the two people that started this whole thing, and now I'm done.
All right. Well, we are done with it for now. We will. I'm sure you will have to address it maybe in other outlets when you're out there for the All-Star game in Nashville. You're listening to the Roenick Life Podcast, powered by Digital Media.
The National Academy of Sports Medicine is looking for people who want an exciting career in the fitness industry, where you wake up every day doing something you love. NASM trainers are improving people's lives by helping them reach their health and fitness goals, and the demand for these trainers is huge. Imagine waking up every day excited to get to work, not to a job, but to a rewarding career, getting paid to stay in shape while helping others reach their fitness goals. And you set your own hours, work in health clubs, sports clinics, and corporate wellness, and you'll love who you work with. Do what you truly enjoy and get paid for it. There's no better time than now to get started on your certification with the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Plus, NASM guarantees you'll land a job as a personal trainer within 60 days of earning your CPT certification, or your money back, guaranteed. Go to myusatrainer.com for a free 14-day trial of their fast and fun online program. That's myusatrainer.com. Restrictions apply. Visit myusatrainer.com for details.
Let's move on to, you want to talk about beating a dead horse, and this isn't really a dead horse. This is a live horse. The Chicago Blackhawks, all they do is keep on winning and winning and winning. Congratulations, Joel Quenneville, who signed his contract extension. You and I didn't get a touch on that last week. I don't understand how anybody could say he is not the best coach in the National Hockey League, and well-deserved. Whatever he got, rumor is 3 years at $6 million per season. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. He's earned it. He's the best. His team now, after winning Sunday over Montreal, 11 in a row. The same thing they did, Jay, in the 2013 season when they won one of their Stanley Cups.
Yep.
And it's everybody. Everybody jump on board. Even guys you really haven't heard of. Everybody's jumping on board. But Taves and Kane, Panarin and Hossa and Crawford, their goalie.
Gosh, unbelievable. And they're being led by their best players. There's no question. But when you look at their team, too, it's amazing to me how Quenneville pieces his lineups together, pieces these players in there. The guys that you haven't heard of. Panik comes in yesterday, has a great game, scores a great goal. Gustafsson makes a great pass over to him. He buries it. You know, the confidence that Quenneville puts in his players and the opportunity that he gives his players to perform and be in the best situation to succeed has really been evident this year. It's very hard to have to retool your team three times in 5 years and still bring in those winning aspects and those winning people. It's fantastic. And how about the streaks? Chicago Blackhawks are on the precipice of having their best streak of all time with 12 wins. We've already had a team in the Florida Panthers that have gone 12 wins in a row. These streaks are unbelievable. Now Chicago has to make sure that they don't do exactly what Florida did and totally screw up a 12-game winning streak by losing 3 games.
Have they screwed it up? I mean, have they really screwed it up?
Well, listen, everybody's talking about the 3 games. They've scored 1 goal or 2 goals in the last 3 games after just absolutely ripping apart, the last 12. And so, people aren't talking about the 12 right now.
Well, I think this Florida team really just got tuckered out. I mean, and just got absolutely. They had a real intense game against Edmonton when Aaron Ekblad got hit. And what was not a good hit by Matt Hendricks, who was a player that I would have on my team in a heartbeat, but I didn't like the hit on Ekblad.
These are the stupid hits that are going on in the game today. Stupid. I mean,
they can't control. Guys are going too fast, Jeremy. They're going too fast. They can't control themselves.
Yeah, but when you see a number, slow down. I mean, you have Mikhail Grabowski run Sedin from the back. Now, Sedin, he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. He's probably the most passive. Nobody fears him at all in the league. And yes, he's good. But when you see his numbers, you don't have to drill him from behind.
Okay,
That's totally disrespectful. I mean, it's happening, and I know these guys have a short window, but you can see the number. I mean, for Christ's sakes, when you see a number, you got to let up on somebody. You have to.
But aren't they going almost too fast? I mean, the game is such at a frenetic pace, and not that you guys didn't play fast in your era, but it's not the same speed level overall, because all 4 lines could not skate the way all 4 lines can right now, and there was nowhere near. You loved hitting, you loved that, but it was a certain type of hitting. Now it's always about finishing your hits and every possible opportunity. I think the guys are going too fast now.
Yeah, well, they are, but I still don't think that these players have any respect for each other. It's such big business right now. There's so much money being thrown out to these players right now, which is deserved. I'm not going to say they don't deserve it. They deserve it. But there's so much money that's going out in contracts. Even third liners making $5 million these days, which is totally crazy. But there's so much competition on having one of those spots that these guys feel if they don't run around and be idiots and run around with their heads cut off and smoking this guy and smoking that guy, trying to hurt this guy, that's the way that they're going to keep their job. That drives me bananas when I see some of these guys that they think they're going to keep a job because of the physical pounding or the running around or the instigating that they're going to do. That's one of the things that drives me crazy about the game today.
Well, the Florida Panthers, just to finish up on them, they have gone 0-3. They play Edmonton again tonight on Monday. So this is a team that, again, after that Edmonton game, which they still found a way to get a victory, they go into Vancouver, and they were just decimated physically. Mm-hmm. And they
had to fly all the way back east to play.
Yeah. And they haven't been able to do well since then. They had Vancouver, then Calgary, and then back east to take on Tampa.
That's a tough schedule.
It's a very tough schedule. And doing it without Aaron Ekblad. Luongo's goals against is up now over 3.5 in the last couple of games. The power play's gone silent. I'm not ready to write him off yet.
Yeah, I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying that people are talking about them losing 3 after winning 12, and we're talking about Chicago. Chicago doesn't look like there's any end in sight. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Do you see that? Do you see this Perron and Kane work that puck together?
Yes.
Like that Perron is just almost as dazzling and exciting to watch as Patrick Kane.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what a find. I mean, I know he's a little bit older rookie, but my gosh,
he's not that old, right? He's not that old.
20. Was he 22, 23?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
he
older.
Played a couple of years in the KHL.
Oh, he's older than this. He's older than the other superstar rookie in Dylan Larkin. So, and he watched him play last night. That kid's exciting, man. That kid is being the true rookie, 19 years old. That guy is really, really.
He's not too fast. He's pretty slow.
Holy blazing.
Yeah, I know.
Not only that, but his hockey intelligence is literally blown off the chart.
Well, he went to Michigan, so that's expected.
Oh, yeah, that's of course you would say that. Of course you would say that.
I don't know what happened to me, but yes.
Yeah, of course you would say that. I think it's more Michigan. It should be Michigan State has the smarter people, but that's okay. But I think I love the rookie pack this year. There's some really great rookies. I think Eichel's coming on, playing better. Mm-hmm. I just wish Kid McDavid didn't get hurt in the beginning of the year because it would have been one of the best rookie classes that we've seen in a long time.
He's going to give that Edmonton team some oomph when he comes back right after All-Star break. They've got a real quirky schedule. Otherwise, he would have gotten in before the break. But because they have a 9-day break, they couldn't get him in. So he'll be back. He'll be good. Let me quickly bring you over to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Speaking of Florida, they played Tampa last night. That Tampa wins. It's their 5th win in a row, something that they hadn't done since last year. They are being led by Nikita Kucherov. They are being led right now by Vlad Nemesnikov up front, who is
nice hat trick the other day.
Wow. Just so improved, most improved player according to John Cooper, their head coach. Big difference for them, too, Jeremy. Their D is scoring a lot. We read this earlier today. In the last 14 games, the D has provided 9 goals. Okay.
Well, that's what made them successful last year. Is they had so many guys like Hedman that had such great years. You had Strawman. Did you see Strawman's spin-a-rammer goal the other day?
Did.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Like
the good laugh afterwards.
That was unbelievable. Good defensemen aren't supposed to do that.
Well, but they're doing it and they're getting support. So 9 goals in their last 14, Jay. They only had 7 in their first 31. So they're supporting this team much better from the back end right now.
Yeah, they are, and their top players are playing, and they're starting to put the puck in the net, and they're being dominant again, and they're moving up the ranks, and that's what's really important, because everybody was freaking out about this team and whether they're too tired or they weren't going to make that run again, but it looks like that they're starting to pick it up, and they're in the playoffs right now, and I don't think they're going to look back. They're definitely on fire.
Tyler Johnson, 7 shots in the game against Florida, and he was quoted after the game as saying, feeling a lot better and feeling better than any time I have previously this year. Remember, he had an injury in the Stanley Cup final, injury to begin this year. I don't think there's any question that the team MVP has not been Ben Bishop. He has been outstanding. He kept him in it. So if they get into the playoffs, he will be a big reason, because the first half of the season he kept them in it. 2 other teams I want to just quickly touch on, and then we're going to get to Justin Williams coming up, and then we'll do another segment afterwards where we got to talk a little Kopitar and maybe a quick Cam Talbot mention. He got some money too. But quickly on 2 teams, Jay. One, a former team of yours, San Jose. Starting to, San Jose is all
Here they come.
Are they really on the come, or is this just going to be a roller coaster with them? That's the one team, and then the other team in the other direction is Minnesota. I know that where you're a fan favorite there. I want to talk, with the fans.
We got to go with San Jose. They've won 5 straight, and they won a couple games at home. And they were pathetic at home. It was almost like they would have lost to a peewee team playing at home. And I don't know whether who got into their heads, but all of a sudden they're starting to look really strong all the way through the lineup. Okay, and they haven't had many holes. I think defensively they've made so many bad mistakes that end up in the back of their net defensively. I don't think they're, with the exception of Vlasic and Burns, I don't think their defensive core is very good at all. But they're starting to at least concentrate and making better plays. And when you make better plays, you start getting it to your offense. And when you have Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton and Pavelski and Couture and these guys that can really bring it, if that's in their hands more often, chances are you're going to win more hockey games. And now they're starting to roll. And I hope they continue to roll. They're right now, as we speak, they are 3rd in that Pacific Division, but them in Arizona battling for that 2nd spot. Nobody's going to catch LA. They're gone. They're gone and done. They're preparing for the playoffs right now.
All right, so we've got that. We've got them playing better. We have San Jose, which I guess maybe I'm burned from all the years of believing in them. I want to believe in them. I don't know. I have an affinity for them for some reason, and I just don't know if I do yet. They still need to prove it to me more. I
haven't had one of those same kind of situation and feelings about Minnesota this year. And I don't know where they've gone. They continue to sputter, and they've lost 4 straight, and they're in jeopardy of getting bounced very quickly out of this playoff picture. And it's not for a case of working, but it's not working smart. This team has not worked smart, and they usually, when they're the ones coming back in these close games, they're making the mistakes, and it's costing them in big games right now. So and you know what? And plus, the Minnesota fans called me a homer, so I'm going to rip them a little bit more. I'm not a homer. I'm not a homer. By the way, I'm never home. So I'm never home. I'm always on the road. I'm not a homer.
You're a hoteler. I'll tell you this. The last 4 games, just in case fans haven't been watching the Minnesota Wild, they lose 3-0 at Nashville on Saturday night. They lose at home the night before 1-0 to the Winnipeg Jets, a team that just, if they ever got some discipline to their game, may be good enough to make a run again. They lose to Buffalo earlier in the week 3-2 at home, and then before that, New Jersey. So they're not exactly – they're losing to – every team is good now in the NHL, but – they're not actually losing to the top team. So coming up, you ready for this, Jay? So they start with their trip in Nashville. They lose. They have a couple of days off. They then go Anaheim, LA, back-to-back, and San Jose in 3 games in 4 days on the road. Not getting any easier for the Minnesota Wild.
No question. I'm sure they're looking at that schedule and saying, oh, my gosh, is there any end in sight? But you know what? They put themselves in that situation. I mean, to not score any goals offensively. And I watch this team, and when I see some of the brain cramps that some of these players, like Thomas Vanek, that like it almost seems like sometimes he doesn't wake up in the morning. Like he doesn't wake up, and he gets on the ice and he looks around like he's a lost child, and he doesn't make the right plays. But it seems like more of their players are doing that. You're always going to get good work ethic from Parise and from Ryan Suter and stuff. But my gosh, if these guys don't follow the lead, you're going to lose. And these guys aren't following their leaders right now.
Yeah, it's a hard-working team, but it's definitely missing something. There's no question about it. I got to imagine their GM Fletcher will be making a move to get something going with this team.
You know, I think they will turn it around. They work hard. Right now, I think they're in the doldrums of the season, and you know what I mean by that. These games 40 through 60 are so tough to stay mentally gripped into the game and prepare. Your body is tired. You're a lot of aches and pains from the first half of the season, and you're still far enough away from the playoffs that it's tough to motivate yourself.
Yeah,
even though you're in playoff races, and I think right now, they're in that doldrum period right now where it's tough for them to get. But you know what? That's another thing. You have to be mentally tough in this game, extremely more mentally tough than any other sport, in my opinion. And right now, that's why they're in the skid, is because they're not mentally tough to stay with it.
All right, well, one team, and let's wrap up this segment with this, that has not been as mentally tough as they'd like, and maybe both teams, the Anaheim Ducks and the Pittsburgh Penguins. You thought that Carl Hagelin would get traded. I don't know if you felt it would happen immediately like it did a few days later, but last week you said that. Carl Hagelin gets traded from Anaheim to Pittsburgh for David Perron and Adam Clendening. Does this trade really do anything for you when it's all said and done?
Not really. I liked Hagelin in New York. I thought he was effective. I thought it was a perfect team for the way that he played. He's not a goal scorer, and if Anaheim went out to get him thinking that he was going to be a goal scorer,
they did,
was a bad scouting report on Hagelin. He is a fast, very good defensively. Because of his speed, he's not going to sit there and score your 20, 25 goals. And by the way, they gave up a nice little player in order to get with him. And Edom still has to get a guy. He still has to prove himself. But
he's got traded too.
Yeah, he's got traded a couple times too. But
well, how about David Perron in Pitt? I mean, they traded a first-round pick for him a couple of years ago.
You know, David, I don't think. And here's another guy that has talent, but for some reason goes into these brain cramps and is not motivated. You can't have as much talent as Perron has, and especially. And I don't say talent all the way around, but his goal-scoring touch is really good. He's got good hands. He can score goals when in the right situation. But then he just disappears. He goes for games and games without seeing them, and it's like, buddy, let's make a decision what type of player you want to be. You're getting shipped around now. You're starting to become a suitcase. And, David Perron hopefully he goes out to L.A. and he enjoys it, and the team, that change of venue wakes him up a little bit. But, my goodness, let's do something a little bit better here.
Well, my guess is this. Bob Murray gets himself out of a really bad mistake let me rephrase it. He gets himself out of he was hoping it would work with Carl Hagelin, and then therefore...
By the way, they traded Palmieri away to free up space for him. Palmieri's having a great year.
Right, Palmieri's having a great season with New Jersey. But so Carl Hagelin leaves, and Bob Murray gets himself out of 3 more years of contract at $4 million plus with Carl Hagelin. He receives Adam Clendening, who is on a 2-way deal, and his contract's up at the end of the year. So is David Perron's contract at the end of the year.
They're not done yet.
To me,
they're not done yet.
Exactly, they're not done yet. They're going to make some moves now and for the future. David Perron does need to get his stuff straightened out. This is just He's got to make himself a mark. He's a good player, but he hasn't had enough good, consistent hockey. So
yeah, but not a blockbuster. That's nothing that's going to.
But good foresight by you. That you felt that Hagelin would get out of there.
Yeah, nothing that's going to make my shorts move. That's for sure.
All right, well, we'll try and make your shorts move coming up. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk with Justin Williams in an interview. I know you and Justin are good buddies. And we'll remind you that you're listening to the Roenick Life Podcast, powered by Digital Media.
You've walked through 18 open houses. Your feet hurt and your head is buzzing. Living in a van is starting to sound strangely appealing. But then you hear it. The sound of hope. Of Zillow. You glance at your phone to see a 3-bedroom Craftsman in the right school district. It's perfect, and it just showed up on your phone. Like magic. So sign up for mobile alerts and we'll send you homes that fit your criteria when they hit the market. And to think, you wanted to live in a van. Zillow. Find your way home.
This is Roenick Life with Jeremy Roenick and Billy Jaffe.
Yeah, and we're back here on Roenick Life Pod, and as we told you earlier, we are going to be sitting down, or I guess we're already sitting down and talking with Justin Williams, one of the great clutch goal scorers of all time. He's friends with JR, good buddies with him. I think they got pet nicknames for each other, something like that right now. I'm not sure, but
hey, it's very close, but we're not going to go that close.
Okay, we're not going to go that.
I love him. He's one of my favorite players I've ever played with, no question.
All right, well, Justin right now is joining us after the morning after his team has gets to a 5-2 victory over the New York Rangers. And so there's a little blip on the radar the other night against the Buffalo Sabres. Losses will happen. We all know it. It happens in the NHL. But then they turn things around, and Williams comes through with 3 goals, a hat trick for the Washington Capitals. Justin, how you doing this morning, bud?
I'm doing just fine this morning. Yeah, I got a nice
life?
day off this morning. We just meet at the plane, so it's a good morning.
Nice, very nice. How is life in D.C.? I mean, you go from one coast in L.A. to one of the other coasts, to the East Coast in D.C. What's life like there for you?
Listen. I have zero to complain about. It's a great city. We got great guys. Our team is obviously doing quite well. And it's just been fun to play hockey this year. And, not all the time it can be fun. It's a very frustrating sport sometimes, a lot of pressure. But this year it's been an absolute breath of fresh air and been fun to play and come to the rink every day.
Justin, explain about your team. Like, what is it about them right now, about you guys, that you're on fire? Billy just mentioned the one loss, but you look at Braden Holtby. He hadn't lost a game in regulation since November 10th, and it just seems like whether you guys are winning or whether you're losing, what is it about this team this year? And I know this is your first year there, but what is it like in the locker room that you guys it doesn't seem like you feel that you can be beaten, and you're just on a roll. 71 points. I mean, by far the tops in the league.
Well, I think we have a lot of championship ingredients. You obviously all championship teams have a great goalie who can produce big saves at big times. You got defensemen who can eat up minutes. You've got dynamic game breakers up front, and it seems like we have all of that. And I think at the right time too, because Ovi's 30 now, and Backstrom, who doesn't get the respect that he deserves, and you've got some prospects who are just, becoming stars, and stars who are becoming superstars. And I've had the pleasure of playing with Kuznetsov, who's
He's
really going to be reaching that superstar status soon if he isn't there already.
Yeah, when you talk about championships, you are, I guess you would call yourself, or we would call you a professor. At least you've earned that because you have 3 Stanley Cup championships, so you can talk about what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. Does this team, and I don't always, I'm going to kind of call myself out, or maybe a stupid question, because every team is different, right? But what team that won a Stanley Cup does this one remind you of the most?
Initially, I think it reminds me of the Carolina team in 2006, which we won. We had a very, very potent offense, but at the same time, we could kind of win games 2-1 if we needed to, and buckle down and play well defensively. And this team, obviously, before I got here, has had a lot of regular season success. And now that we're having more regular season success, everyone's kind of like, ho-hum, where's the next step? And we want to get through the whole thing. It's not about winning the President's Trophy or getting in the playoffs as a top seed. It's about the end result, and everyone is working towards that right now. And you can feel it within the dressing room for sure.
I want you to talk about 2 players on your team, because I think they're the catalyst of what makes you guys go. Obviously, Ovi scoring his 500th goal in 800 games. I mean, you know as well as I do what a feat that is, and kind of his personality in the locker room. He seems to have so much passion for the game, or he does have so much passion, but his energy and he celebrates as big when other people score as when he does. How is he the same off the ice in the locker room? Does he bring that kind of energy? Does he have any of that? Does he yell and scream at times when things aren't going right? And then secondly, I want you to talk real quick about Braden Holtby, because I think he's become very quickly one of the top 3 best goaltenders in the game, and right now probably the odds-on favorite for winning the Vezina. Tell us a little bit about them and their characters in the locker room.
Well, I think you can't help but, I mean, I know you know Ovi a little bit too. You can't help but mention his name and smile. He's got that goofy, attitude about him that you mention his name, it's like, oh yeah, Ovi, what a character. And I love the fact that he gets just as excited, as you said, when other guys score, as when he scores. I got a hat trick last game, and I think he was happier than I was for myself.
He was all over you, bumping your head, take your helmet off, giving you hugs and stuff like that. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's, from what I've heard, he's just gotten a bad rap. He's doing all the right things right now. He's not at all a selfish player. He's doing a lot of things right for the team. He's saying all the right things. He's going out, he's blocking shots, and obviously he does what he does with scoring goals. Scoring 500 and 800 games in this day and age is I mean, I can't even say it. It's amazing, and he's been doing it for so long that you just shake your head and say, oh, just another Ovechkin goal. And it gets old, but it doesn't get old watching, that's for sure. But to answer the second part of your question, Holtby, I didn't quite know what to expect when I got here with Holtby. I'd been around some great goaltenders, Jonathan Quick, Cam Ward, a bunch of great goaltenders. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect with him, but he's phenomenal. You know about a goalie in practice, and when you have a tough time beating him in practice, and when he gets visibly upset when you score a goal against him, that's the guy I want on my team. When you go and score a goal and you go off the crossbar and then he looks at you and he throws an F-bomb at you, you love that. You love that competitiveness, and he certainly has that. And, good Canadian boy, he wants to win.
Well, good Canadian boy that wants to win too is you, and win is what you do, Mr. Clutch, one of the great clutch players of your generation. You're 7-0 in Game 7s. All you do is you seem to score goals in Game 7s, and if you always talk about just being on good teams and being in the moment, and I agree, I understand, and I appreciate and respect that. But if those moments don't make you nervous, because a lot of other guys, they might not admit it, but their asses are nervous at that time, heading out onto the ice with the puck, whether it's on or not on their stick. If that doesn't make you nervous, Justin, what does make you nervous in this world? Tell us what makes you uncomfortable then, if those moments don't make you uncomfortable.
They absolutely make me uncomfortable. I mean, you have to use your nerves to your advantage. I mean, who doesn't go out there in a Game 7 or a do-or-die situation and not get nervous? I mean, everybody does. You just got to use those butterflies to your advantage. And
you should see him knocking a 10-footer for par on 18 with $1,000 on the line. I've seen him do it.
Okay, that makes you nervous.
Yeah, but that's the thing is with golf and hockey. Like I know I'm good at hockey. But I don't know I'm good at golf. That's why I'm so much more nervous playing golf. You got 20,000 people watching you playing hockey. You're okay, but you have 10 people watching you in golf and your buddies, you get more nervous. So that's the fun thing about sports.
Do you ever? I mean, before heading out to one of these overtimes, do you ever have some guys visualize? Jeremy, you talked about that earlier in one of our podcasts. But do you do anything different before heading out into one of those clutch, intense moments of a Game 7 in overtime?
Yeah, I think I kind of learned it from Jay. I try to do a lot of visualization. I think it helps tremendously. When you go out before the game, you can kind of think about a move you're going to do, or think about beating a guy, or hey, even simpler, think about getting a puck out late in the game. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
All things are important come playoff time, and every little thing is important. Winning a face-off, getting an extra effort, getting a puck in. I mean, there's so many things that go into winning that are so important that usually the public doesn't see, but the players on the ice do.
Yeah, it's so true, because I think it was 2004 when I scored that goal against Eddie in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Literally sitting in the locker room, and you visualize, like, if I have a 2-on-1, what am I going to do? If I have a situation, what am I going to do? And Billy, what that does is when you're in that situation, you don't second guess it. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what you do because your mind has already gone through it. So that visualization, like Willie's saying, is so true and could be such a powerful tool to have because if your brain has already seen it, your body's going to react when it's in the position. So I think it's right. Willie, I want to ask you another question. You guys have a huge lead in your division right now, and I want to touch a little bit on your coach and how great of a job that he has done with this team. And What's the attitude right now, having such a big lead and not dipping? And how much is your coach in your ear about making sure that you guys don't get complacent and have any of these dips in your game? Because you know it's a long season and that can happen. But boy, what a phenomenal job it seems that your coach is doing down there in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, Barry has done. Yes, I mean, he's done a tremendous job of setting the foundation of what we're built on, and he's made everybody accountable on this team. And I certainly can't speak for past teams, but I certainly know on this team that everyone's say is worth something, and nobody's above the team. And I think that's very important. And he's done a great job so far of keeping us motivated. But I think at the same time, at some point you got to, send the reins over to the players, and the players need to do it themselves. And, whenever we can govern ourselves within the room and make everyone on the team accountable to each other without the coach, that's the true making of a team.
What would be the biggest differences between Daryl Sutter and Barry Trotz, the guy that you just played for what, 5-6 years in Los Angeles, and the guy that you're just playing for half a season so far in D.C.?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I think even if you ask coaches all the time, coaches are constantly learning too. There's different ways to coach players, and some guys respond to a kick in the ass better than other guys do, and some guys respond to a little bit more, come on, bud, we can do this type attitude. So both coaches certainly know their players, and just because I got kicked in the ass quite a bit doesn't mean that he wasn't trying to get the best of me. And they're both great coaches in their own right. Both demand a lot and expect a lot of their own players.
Does Daryl get enough credit? Does he get enough credit for what he's done in L.A.?
Well, I think he gets a lot of credit. He's a great coach and had a great career.
He's just cranky as hell. He's just cranky as hell with the Sour Patch Puss all the time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I think sometimes people have that attitude about him. But when it's not a game day, if you get Sutter on a non-game day, he's great.
He is. But
you get him on a game day, it is intense. It is all about business. It's all about the game forward. So
yeah, isn't it funny, Willie? When even when he is in a good mood, when you come up to him, he has that look on his face. He looks at you, and the next thing that comes out of his mouth is something funny, and he just totally makes you go from a totally frozen "what are you going to say" position to a laugh and kind of a little joking situation. He does have that ability to be very creative with his attitude in terms of his players. But I'm going to go back to LA again. Yours and my close friend Anze Kopitar just signed that huge deal, $80 million, and you're his golfing partner. I know you guys have been very good friends, and I want you to talk a little bit about him real quick because it's the big news of the week. Where do you see him in this league in terms of his talent ability, where he ranks as the centerman, and him signing this huge deal?
Well, I think within the league there's certain type of players. I mean, there's just a handful of superstars, and he's certainly in that echelon, but there's goal scorers, great defensive players, there's playmakers, and he encapsulates all three of those. And that's what makes him so special, that you can have him out there in the last minute of the game, and you want him there on the ice when you need a goal. And, he's probably the most responsible player that I've played with, and he's certainly atoned for a lot of my mess-ups on the ice when I played with him, that's for sure. He deserves every penny. I know Sutter said that yesterday. He deserves every penny, and I'm proud of him. I hope he has some great years ahead of him, but certainly just not at the expense of my new team.
We're definitely going to get him on the golf course sometime this summer and take some of that contract money away from him. Okay? We got to make sure.
We got to take some of his signing bonus.
Absolutely.
Yes, signing bonus. Has he ever invited you to Slovenia? You ever gone back there with him? I
was there. I was there a few years ago. Yeah, he actually has a golf tournament himself.
And what was that like?
Slovenia, and I went out there. Oh, it's a beautiful country, absolutely beautiful country that a lot of people don't know about. Sit there, next to Croatia. It's pretty impressive and a great city. And he's kind of like Brad Pitt over there, though. Like he's only one Slovenian hockey player. He can't walk around the city without someone noticing him or taking a picture of him. So that was pretty interesting to see.
I wonder, they have 7 rinks in that country, right? I mean, that's it, literally 7 rinks. I mean, to come out, and I know it's a small state, but to come out of there is pretty darn impressive.
No, I agree. Him, his father, his brother, they've kind of putting Slovenia on the map a little bit, and I know their hockey program is improving every year, and you can see that with the Olympics that they had. They're really doing a good job there, and as I said, I'm proud of Kopi, and hope he continues his success.
You said something earlier, and I probably should have touched on it when you said it, but you talked about Backstrom and how he doesn't get enough credit for what he does, and maybe that's a lot because of Alex and his goal-scoring ability and his personality. But he's going to his first All-Star game. Can you believe it? As well as this kid has played for so long, to be in one of his first All-Star games. I mean, that's pretty incredible, don't you think? Talk a little bit about him.
It's funny because, exactly. I said that when I got here. We were, 20 games in the season, and I was like, "Hey, Packy, how many All-Star games have you played in?" He goes, I didn't know. And he said, "None." And I started laughing. I said, "You've averaged a point a game for 600 games in the NHL." I said, "You haven't been to an All-Star game?" And he just said no. And the funny thing is, he had already he just assumed he wasn't going to make it this year. So he had already made plans to go to Turks and Caicos and everything, and got himself a non-refundable ticket, so he's taking a little hit here too for this going to the All-Star game.
Yeah, but isn't it crazy that as well as he has played in his career, and he's just got named to his first All-Star game, and technically, if you think about it, because of timing, when the All-Star games was picked, that John Scott made an All-Star game before Backstrom. Is that the most craziest, stupid, idiotic thing you've ever heard in your life?
It is amazing because he really he is one of the most deceptive players I've ever seen on the ice. He just looks one way and passes the other way every time, and you always got to be ready for his passes. That's for sure. So, I think he's the perfect guy to learn under for Kuznetsov, who's our other great centerman right now.
And that's what I was going to ask you about. What has Kuznetsov, you think, learned from Backstrom so far? Or maybe the question is, what hasn't he learned? But also, are you amazed by Kuznetsov's his personality already and the confidence that he has? I don't want to say he's Ovechkin-like, but he sure seems to have that same type of swagger that he does already at such a young age.
He is. I certainly wouldn't say that to his face, but he is a pretty dynamic, impressive player, and he's going to be a great player. Not a good player, great player. He's already a great player, but he does things on the ice that you don't expect. And when you play with him, you have to expect the unexpected. And when you expect the unexpected from him, then you can develop a lot of chemistry together. And listen, I've scored some goals in my league, but last night was a pretty easy one. We just threw it right on my stick, and I had an empty net to put it into. So
that was amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, he's an impressive player, and he wants to be great, and that's a great thing. There's always great players, and there's a lot of skill, and everyone's got skill, yada yada yada. But when you want to be great day in and day out and keep improving, like I see that he is, that's a great sign for us.
I loved his answer the other day, Jeremy, in a question in an interview. Mm-hmm. He said, some guy asked him a kind of a funny question, just a goofy one, but he gave him an answer. He's like, about when he was all said and done, has he ever thought about being older? And he said, yeah, maybe I'll just smoke cigars and drink whiskey when I'm all done. This is a 23-year-old kid. He's got great personality. I love it. I love that about him.
He's got life all mapped out, no question. Hey, Willie, I want to talk real quick about Mike Richards, him coming over. Mm-hmm. He's had such a tough year and a half here, maybe even 2 years, and he was so prolific in Philly, then coming over and being such a big part of your Stanley Cup wins in LA, and all of a sudden it seemed to fall apart for him. I know the team asked you specifically about Mike before they picked him up. I don't think people understand the nature of what he provides for a team, not on the goal scoring side, but talk a little bit about Richards and you giving him your vote of approval for coming on and what he's going to do for you guys.
When they came to me and just, wanted to ask about him, what you don't want to do, I think is what management was thinking is things are going real well for us. We have a great dressing room. Everyone gets along well. Everyone supports each other, loves each other. They just wanted to make sure that they weren't bringing in a bad guy to mess up the dressing room, and certainly I could 100% vouch for that Mike would not mess up anything. He's contrary to what a lot of people think. He's he's a pretty quiet guy, and he's pretty reserved, and he usually does his talking on the ice. And obviously he's had a couple tough years. His ego's taken a little bit of a hit, and I know he's a proud guy, and he's going to want to prove a lot of people wrong, and I hope that he does that.
Hey, before we let you go, I know that your 6-year-old, or maybe 7-year-old son, I'm not sure his exact age, he had the comment about, when you were a free agent this summer, Justin, you should go sign with Ovechkin. You should go with the Caps and sign with Ovechkin. So the kid's got brains. We know that. Okay, we know that he's hockey smart also. But have you guys done, now that you're the DC family, have you done the DC thing? Have you done the White House? Have you done all the stuff, or has it been too busy for you? What do you know of DC right now? I know you're a good Canadian boy, though.
No, DC's great. We live just across the bridge in Virginia, and everything's great. The schools are great. My son and daughter and wife are enjoying everything, very well. I've been to the White House a few times. I've had the pleasure to go there, meet the presidents, and we've seen a couple museums and monuments and everything. So I think it's good for the kids too to get the culture and to see how many historical figures have come before them on the monuments, and it's a pretty impressive city, and I've loved it so far.
Well, too bad you didn't tell the president how to perform under pressure, because he could really definitely learn something from you. That is for sure. But Willie, you are one of my favorite guys in the world. I couldn't be more proud of where you've come, and since those early Philly days, I thought Philly was absolutely out of their mind crazy when they traded you away to Carolina, and I think 3 cups, how many, 7 or 8 Game 7 goals,
Conn Smythe Trophy. You have a great family.
Hey,
will you please do something with your career, Justin? Please.
Yeah,
please.
I mean, seriously, it's amazing.
Bunch of crap.
Yeah, it's amazing how things just fall into place for you, and I hope it continues to. Watch it every night, and just make sure in the locker room, you're the guy that a lot of people are going to listen to, and I'm sure you're gonna help this team get over that final hurdle that you talked about that's been eluding them. So I just want to thank you for coming on with us. I know you played last night. You're tired. Your kids are probably waking you up, but I love you, and I can't wait to get you on the golf course because it's been way too long.
I hear you. Geez, I'll come on the show anytime. You guys are the nicest. All these nice things said about me. I'm coming on the show anytime.
There you go. Well, we're going to have to change that then. We're going to have a nice segment, and we're going to have
me next time. I'm much more comfortable when people just give it to me.
Oh, trust me. If I saw something, I'm going to give it to you, but you're not giving me any reason to.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Justin Williams right there. All right, good stuff.
When you're running your own business, you're bound to be busy. Too busy. Too busy worrying about your budget. Too busy scheduling appointments. Too busy to build a website for your business. And because you're too busy, it has to be easy. And that's where Wix.com comes in. With Wix.com, it's easy for you to create your stunning website. Go to Wix.com and create your website today. It's easy and free. That's Wix.com.
This is Roenick Life with JR and Jaffe.
Great stuff with Justin Williams. Good guy. You're always a good guy. Always amenable. Awesome. Always agreeable. Easy to do. And he says he's nervous, and I guess he is nervous when he goes out there, but he's got it. When the puck gets on his stick in clutch situations, he doesn't mess it up. He just doesn't.
Clutch performer, there's no question, and he gives great interview. You listen to his answers; they're eloquent. I mean, they are eloquent, and he gives a lot of substance in his answers.
Jeremy, take us onto the ice, okay? Game 7, whatever one it is, I don't care, or it doesn't have to be a specific one, but just take us onto the ice quickly here. And I mean, I've been involved in overtime games, but not at the NHL level, so I won't even attempt to speak to it. But what are you thinking? What are you feeling when you're going out there? I mean, and you've been removed from the game for a while, but can you remember some of your feelings?
Absolutely. Well, I loved being in those pressure-packed situations. I wanted so bad to be the guy that scored that goal. I wanted to be the guy that helped make that play. I never wanted to get off the ice in Game 7s. Like I dreamt of scoring that goal and having all the guys pile on me and having that exhilaration of the hero of the moment. I wanted that so bad that it pushed me harder, and I worked harder. I'll tell you a story late in my career, because I was the leader, or I think I was second or first in most Game 7 goals in the history of the game. I think I might have been behind Glenn Anderson. or tied with Glenn Anderson for the all-time Game 7 goals until Justin passed me a couple years ago. So I've had that experience and been successful in that. So late in my career, I'm playing in San Jose, and my good old buddy Coach Wilson yells at me on the bench in Game 5, and I snap. I go in the locker room, and I have words with him in the locker room, and Ron gets mad at me, and I yell at him. This is Game 5 of the first round against Calgary. I take his stick. I take a stick that's in the corner of, this is literally, I'm sweating. I have my, I got my gear on, and he yells at me. I yell at him because he yelled at me for taking a long shift when I was really on for 20 seconds. So I grabbed his Marty Brodeur.
Was that 19 seconds too long for him?
Yeah, maybe at that time. But I grabbed his Marty Brodeur stick that was sitting in the corner that Marty Brodeur signed, and it was a pretty special stick. I think he reached a milestone with that stick, and I slammed it against his desk. And as I was going out, he yelled at me. He goes, you asshole. He gave me, he said, you just broke my stick. And he was yelling at me as I'm going down, and I screamed back at him. And him and I had words. And Ronnie and I are great friends. But, that happens in families. That happens with teams. Right. But I snapped, and I almost broke his Marty Brodeur stick right during the game. Okay? So we get done with that game, and we go up to Calgary, and I knew something was going to happen. Well, the thing that happened is I became a healthy scratch.
Right, I remember.
He didn't play me in Game 6. And he sat me down and he goes, listen, I don't have to tell you why you're not playing today, but you know why you're not playing today. See you later. And I left the room and was mad, but I understood. I didn't say anything to him. I kept my mouth shut. I wasn't happy I wasn't playing Game 6 because we had a chance to finish it off. Game 7 comes. We're having our morning skate. Okay, we're skating around in the morning, and we have a nice little 15-minute skate. And he brings everybody to center ice, and he brings everybody in a group because this is the rah-rah, coach's pep talk on the ice. And what he says to the team? He goes, guys, I don't want anybody to worry about tonight's game. We have this one in the bag because Mr. Roenick here has scored 5 or 6 goals in Game 7s. He knows what it's like to be in Game 7s, and I know that he's pissed off that he didn't play in Game 6. But don't worry, JR will make sure we win the game tonight. And I'm looking at him like, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. Here I am, 38 years old. I'm the old guy of the group. I just got sat out, all this stuff, and he throws this on me. And I got in the locker room. I went, that's actually pretty cool that he could be so mad at me, but then pat me on the back and say, we got this because this guy has had such a clutch performance in all of his years. 2 goals, 2 assists. We romped Calgary in the last game to win Game 7 right against my old coach Mike Keenan, who was on the other bench in Calgary, and it was probably one of the coolest stories that I have had in my career. You're all of a sudden at the bottom, at the doldrums of your playoff career. And then the next day, you're at the top and getting a team over the edge. So that was my Game 7, one of my Game 7 stories.
But what you left out one detail of that I'm devastated, shocked, and disappointed in you that you didn't remember. The best part of that whole
our interview.
It was
our interview. That was awesome. Yeah, so we're doing the interview. So
post-game interview. I was between the benches.
Post-game interview. Billy's you're doing the game, and then you come to me to do the post-game interview. And right when you ask the question, they're announcing the 3 stars of the game, and you ask the question, and they say, "In the first star," and I said, "Excuse me, Billy.
Yes,
I have to take a minute." And they said my name, and I put my hand up and then got back to the interview. That was a funny part of that story. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yes, we had a good time. I think that was our first on-ice interview. Yeah, we've known each other for all these years, and then we had that. That was fun. No, good stuff right there. But Game 7's, and overtime in general, it's amazing the nerves that you guys are able to control, because a lot of guys, even at the NHL level, get nervous as hell. They do. It's amazing. But as Justin says, and you say, you got to control it. You got to be able to contain it. Let's quickly get to this. Justin mentioned, you asked him a question about it too. Anze Kopitar, $10 million deal per season. That's the average annual value. $80 million.
Wow.
Over that time. Is he worth it? And we don't have a lot of time for this one.
Yeah,
is he worth it?
100% worth it. Gretzky called him the 3rd best player in the National Hockey League behind Sidney Crosby and Jonathan Toews. I think that says a lot about what what Anze Kopitar has brought to the LA Kings and to the National Hockey League. He's looking to make $14 million next year, then $13 million. So obviously it's a front-loaded contract. But
bonuses. Yep.
What he brings to that team. I mean, you heard what Justin said. He is the glue in every situation. He's the go-to guy in every situation. And you know what? He does it, and he doesn't need any of the accolades. You talk to him, and you would be shocked to know that he was such a competitor. He loves the game, and as good as they come in terms of protecting the puck and helping other players become better.
Mm-hmm. Could you choose, or who would you choose if you had to? This is a tough one. Between Anze Kopitar, who's 28, and Jonathan Toews, who's 27. Toews is making $10.5 now. Kopitar is going to be making $10 million a year. Let me just give you a few numbers real quick. I'll give you a second to think about it right here. In 613 regular season games, Toews has 541 points. In 727 regular season games, Kopitar has 648 points. So, relatively speaking, they're similar, point-per-game type player. 117 postseason games for Jonathan Toews. All right, his team has been better the longer he's been in the league. He has 102 points. That's pretty unbelievable. But 60 points in 70 games for Anze Kopitar, who has 2 Stanley Cups. Toews has 3. Now, Toews has a Conn Smythe, 1 Selke, and 2 Olympics. You can't hold it against Anze Kopitar. That he did play for Slovenia, but his country is not exactly a powerhouse. He does not have any personal awards. But he is also incredibly durable, Jeremy.
You know, it's amazing when you think of the comparisons, and even the way they play, the comparisons are almost identical.
Yeah.
The defensive aspect, the Selke aspect of being one of the best defensive players.
Leadership aspect.
Offensively, their creativeness with the puck, their ability to protect the puck, how amazingly they hunt the puck down and seem to come out with the puck every single time. It is shocking how close in nature they are to being almost identical players. But Jonathan Toews has won everything you can possibly win, across the board in terms of the hockey aspect. We'll see if he can win a World Cup next year. But just both amazing players.
Toews is Kopitar is 6'3", 220-something pounds, so his wherewithal is huge.
Stature is bigger.
5 times in his career, he's played in every game in a season. He's played all of them this year. Jonathan Toews is by no means health issues, by no means at all, but I'm just saying he's not as physically big as Anze Kopitar. Kopitar gets more assists. Jonathan Toews scores more goals. I'll tell you right now, I will sit firmly on the fence and tell you I would take either one. Toews has 3 cups and
way to go out on the ledge.
I like them both. No, I love them both. I love how the way they both play the game.
This contract's going to be really interesting to see what happens now with Steven Stamkos. Is he going to stay in down south, or is he going to look for close to the same kind of money? I'm sure Stamkos is sitting down there just licking his lips, saying, "Thank you, Anze. You just
I think it impacts Steven Stamkos the most, and then in a year or so, year and a half, Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn's going to get paid, though, regardless. They're going to keep him in Dallas. He's at 5.5, give or take, right now.
Best power forward in the game.
And so he's going to – how is he not going to be at $10 million a season now, too? I just the numbers, they scream $10 million. So I think those are the 2 biggest contracts. Somebody I was having this discussion with the other day said, and Eric Stahl, too. I said, no, I'm sorry. It doesn't affect Eric Stahl the most. I don't care if it's a small market team. He hasn't had this kind of production.
Eric, in order to get to that stature, you have to make your team better. And Eric Stahl he's a good player, but he hasn't made that team better. The team has been wallowing.
He did years ago. Yeah,
he's been wallowing in mediocrity for the last few years, and maybe that's not all his fault. But listen, you got to.
I'd agree with that.
You got to bring it. You got to bring it more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. By the way, they're doing a nice job down there right on Carolina. I don't know if they're going to make the plays, but they're doing a nice job. But
they're starting to piece some wins together. Falk has had a fantastic year, and
the other D too.
They always have good goaltending. So I'm glad that they're starting to win a few more games, but still not scaring anybody yet.
All right, let's do one question that we got right here as we wrap up this Roenick Life pod with JR and Jaffe. And this one, we promised we weren't going to talk about John Scott anymore, so we're really not going to. But there was a fun question and comment made by one of our listeners via Twitter. This one comes from Matty B, and he wanted to talk about and ask you about Bob Probert, who was in many ways maybe the ultimate tough guy player. and maybe you'll disagree with me or not, but as Matty B says, JR, give us your best Bob Probert story. The dude was the best fighter and could play with the best, and he brought it for a couple of years that were amazing years.
Yeah, without question. And obviously the conversation of being the best fighter will always be debated. Mm-hmm. But I played against this guy. I played with this guy. Bob Probert, when he got on the ice, especially in Detroit, when he was going through his tough times, when he was going through his substance abuse times, and he was showing up, with high on cocaine or drinking or whatever the case may be, and God rest his soul, I love this man with every ounce. But when he was in his heyday, when he was going through the Detroit years, fighting everybody, and whatever kind of demons he was battling, boy, you saw it in his eyes. And you want to talk about a guy, we talk about fighters being able to play in all-star games and people that can play in the game that are fighters. You got to listen to this stat, okay, for Bob Probert. In 87-88, okay, he made the all-star team. Okay, so you had a pure fighter in the all-star game. 74 games, 29 goals, 33 assists. He was a plus 16. Okay, he wasn't the fastest skater in the world, but he was a plus 16. 398 penalty minutes. That is stupid, scary numbers right there. You're in the box for 400 minutes, and you can still pot 29 goals. I mean, it's 15 power play goals, 15 even strength goals, 5 game-winning goals. And in the playoffs that year, 16 games, he scored 8 goals and 13 assists. I mean, these are numbers that superstars in the game today aren't mustering. That's the kind of guy, fighter, that can play in an all-star game, not John Scott, the guy that can bring in. Granted, Probert played with Steve Yzerman. Don't get me wrong.
Gerard Gallant was on that team.
Yeah, Steve Yzerman wasn't a bad playmaker. He made a lot of people better. But just when Proby came to Chicago, he was the model citizen and still fought everything, still played great. There's not one guy in the Chicago Blackhawks who won't say that Bob Probert was probably one of their favorite teammates. Me, Chelly, and him hung out a lot together. We'd be strolling down the Eisenhower in our Harleys and, hanging out together. And the guy was one of the greatest men on the planet, and he would do anything for your teammates. But that's what you call a real hockey player.
And is there one fight, not the time that you fought him, but is there one fight that you remember vividly of Probert that you can tell quickly?
For me, it was watching him. Okay, so not when I played, but the fight that really blew me away was him and Ty Domi when Ty Domi was with the Rangers. They had a fight in Madison Square Garden that was so epic.
It's unbelievable.
People can.
You talked to him about it?
He would say that Ty Domi was one guys that he really didn't enjoy fighting because you can't hurt Ty. He's got that iron face, that that cranium that's as big as the moon. That as soon as you hit it, you hurt your hand and he gets happier, right? So that was Probert. Probert's like, listen, I hit this guy's face and it's almost like I'm hitting titanium and lead. But he said that was one of the better fights that he's ever been in, because this little guy that had such low center of gravity, and that fight went on for like 5 minutes. I don't know how they continued to play, but it was like one punch after another, and these guys took beatings. And then Bob Proby looked worn out after that one, and you see Ty Domi with the biggest smile on his face doing the speed bag punch after. One of the most epic fights I remember seeing.
I remember just watching Bob Probert, and he would always start fights out kind of like a bear coming out of hibernation, kind of like a slumber, and he'd be like, okay, you can hit me 2 or 3 times. Go ahead. And now watch out.
Yeah. Watch out. When I fought him, it felt like he grabbed me by the back of my shirt with his 2 fingers and lifted me up, and then took his index finger with his other hand and flicked me in the face, and I got knocked out. That's what it felt like when you fought Bob Probert. Picked me right up by the back of my shirt.
He's such a big man, such naturally strong. The year that you mentioned, one little nugget here before we wrap it up, from the 87-88 season, the year you talked about his 398 PIMs, and you mentioned his playoff points. He led the Detroit Red Wings in playoff points that year.
It's unbelievable.
21 playoff points on 8 goals and 13 assists. And he had second place was Adam Oates with 20 points, but otherwise he led the way. So a real impressive player, and yes, miss him every day. Loved hanging out with him when he was in Chicago, albeit, yes, straight and narrow. He did, he was battling it all the time, buddy. He would admit it. But just to hang out with him, to sit with him, to talk to him at Stanley's, which we did regularly. Skated with him a bit over the summer too at times. A tremendous individual. Yeah. So we thank you, Matty.
Yeah, we miss him. We miss him. We miss him a lot. No question.
Oh, no question about it. A wonderful guy and just a ton of fun. So thank you, Matty B, for the question and the story. And Jay, we've gone on and on today. We've covered a lot. There's a ton more that we could have gotten to too, but can't get to it all.
We didn't even talk about the Flyers on a hot pace right now.
Yeah, I know.
Ripping it up. So we'll save that till next week. And I want to get back to the fans next week, Billy. We got to make sure. I had so much fun with the fans calling in. I hope some of the fans come in and don't want to ask nice questions. I hope they want to have like a little interaction with me. You can call me an
But
idiot.
They got to be real. None of this manufactured crap. Real stuff.
It's not manufactured.
No, I'm saying
sure
to the fans, not to you.
No,
I'm saying to them. You know?
Yeah, but there's got to be people out there that aren't fans of mine, and they do have bones to pick about the things that I say or the things that I do or maybe the perception of me. And I want to hear that. I think that would be fun debates and fun arguments. So I want to get back to the fans next week, okay?
All right, we'll get Lou on that. We'll also have another great guest next week. We want to thank Justin Williams for taking 20 minutes out of his completely off day today from the Washington Capitals, but sitting down and talking with us. Real quick, what do you got this week, Jeremy? Where are you headed to? You got one of those golf boondoggles?
I'm working a couple days, but I actually get to go home.
Couple of days.
I actually get to go back to my home, into my house, where I can rest for 3 days, and I haven't been there since December 21st. So I get to go home for 3 days, and I'm back. Then I'm back here in New York for the next month. So I'm going to enjoy a couple days at home.
All right, well, go enjoy that. Travel safe. I've got Rogers Sportsnet for Monday and Tuesday, a couple of different games, and then I got Boston and Vancouver on Thursday, a college game. Going back to campus, buddy, on Friday night before another Bruins game, and some NHL Network work coming up too. So busy times for all of us. Enjoy time at home. Say hello to the lovely T. Vaz for me, please.
I sure will.
Tell her I miss her. And we will be talking to you next week again. You've been listening to Roenick Life Podcast with JR and Jaffe, powered by Digital Media.
This has been a Digital Media production. Find your voice.